Welcome to another episode of Boring Conversations. On this episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with Sarah Adeyemo. Sarah is a Nigerian poet and a person within the literary community. She's the author of the book The Shape of Silence. In this particular episode, we'll be exploring concerns and themes that ordinarily led her to titling her book as The Shape of Silence. And beyond that, we'll be having conversations that span her lifetime, her times, and the works in which she finds herself doing within the Nigerian literary space and beyond. Sarah has been published in prominent journals within the country, and in this particular conversation, we would have the chance to ordinarily explore these themes more. It's a conversation you don't want to miss. Without further ado, I give you Sarah Adeyemo. Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you.
To kickstart, your book, The Shape of Silence, what inspired you to first write the work, and then what inspired the title, The Shape of Silence? Does silence have a shape?
So, what inspired the shape of silence is that there's a poem in the book titled Life Souvenir. So, what inspired that poem and the title is the tradition of prayer growing up as a Christian. When I used to go to my grandfather's place in Lagos for holiday, and early in the morning he wake us all for morning prayer. And there's this belief that when one's parents or grandparents wants not to die, they used to pray for someone, call it last prayer. So we call it last prayer, and before they kick the bucket. So in the poem, there is this the last line in the poem says, suddenly she tenders her tongue into the shape of silence. So it means that so the shape of silence means that. So it is when you read the book that you know that okay, does silence really have a shape? So the shape of silence means that. Although I have this feeling that if this this title is it hitting the book on its own. So I think I come up with five titles, but the shape of silence really resonates with me. I have this feeling that when people hear about the shape of silence, they want to like go further to purchase to have it and really discover how silence has a shape. So that's the inspiration behind it.
As it concerns being a writer in the part of the world you find yourself, how has the country shaped your style of writing? How have you come to resonate with the day-to-day realities of the country you find yourself, and what role are you playing as well as other poets in coming to see that the society is reflected in your work? You were a participant at the 2024 Sprinng Fellowship, Writing Fellowship last year. Can you run us through the experience and how you got selected and the experience you got there, and if it was something you ordinarily enjoyed or if it's something you want them to improve and stuff like that?
Okay. So the thing is, I have writers as friends. Some of my writers they are friends, and when the call out for application was open, they send it to me, and I think they send it around February, March. So and it is closing in April. I think April 15th. So when because before one thing I do, before even submission, anything I do, I check the past fellows. I check their growth, what they are doing and everything. And I really want to know about the Spring Writing Fellowship before applying so as to know what to write. So when I was writing, I was making my research. I even went deep into the life of the co-founders. I searched and everything, and I was amazed at their fellows' growth. the way they were being published, being writing, and their growth was really amazing. And even when I was interviewed, I made mention of one person who is now pursuing his MFA at the University of Alabama. And that is Abdul Karim. Abdul Karim. His growth really amazing. It really, really amazes me. And I was like, so if this person can get into Sprinng Writing Fellowship, and after the fellowship, his writing styles develop and everything, definitely this Sprinng Writing will help my writing skills. It will help me in my writing journey. So I was scared because I was like, will they accept me? I was having this imposter syndrome. Will they, what if my application is not standing out, and it is not limited to Nigeria alone? Ghana, Liberia, and South Africa. So I was really scared, but notwithstanding, I submitted my application on the deadline. So I made sure that I submitted. I submitted, and when they rounded up everything, they let us know that the application is, I think, 7,000, I be 700, and so it was more than 500. So I was scared when I saw the number. I was scared, like, this is not for me because of the number and the Spring on its own. I was like, well, I know I did my best. So when the the email was being sent that I've been accepted, I was super excited. I screamed when I saw because I know the usefulness, the importance of having a mentor that will guide someone, and being a, like, let me say, a baby writer in the space, just growing up, being exposed to writing and everything. I know that I need someone who would join me on this journey, who would, like, hold my hand. So I was accepted, and I was paired to a mentor. And yes, in my school there's no network, and I was like, this network issue cannot be a weapon fashioned against me. Not knowing that they, apart from network, I also experienced another thing. So on the day that my mentor called me, my app that is my mentor, my phone was just faulty. It was not pressing again. I don't know. So I have to put my SIM in another phone and tell the person that, okay, sir, who are you again? I can't hear you. So he said he's my mentor, and oh my god, I'm very happy about this. But at the moment my phone is faulty. But I just pray to God that I'll find something to do to it. So before the end of the day, my phone was I was able to repair my phone. But before I was able to repair my phone, I was depressed. I was not myself again, because I was like, I'm about to start a journey which I'm passionate about, and my phone just got spoiled and everything. Apart from the network, which I'll be struggling with. So, but I was grateful that my phone, I was able to repair it, and then the journey, he began the journey and everything. And along the line, I was also preparing for examination. But one thing I know, that the writing fellowship is kind of a, I don't know, maybe my own mentor. He was understanding. He knows where I am coming from, because we had this discussion. We traced it from to my background and everything. So he had this we had this kind of discussion, this kind of foundation, whereby he understands me. You understand me? So when the fellowship was going, there's no network. I have to, like, climb mountain, go to places to, like, look for network. It's to look for network. So the let me just say now, now in the writing fellowship, I when they give us our manual, our why do we write every week, why do we write, why we write, like, why do we write, how do we write, why we write, when, who we write for, and how to find our voice. I was like, this is just amazing, because we just write sometimes without having knowing why we write, without even knowing who our audience are, and without having our voice. So what really stood out for me in Spring Fellowship was the mentor, one-to-one mentorship, and the feedback, because every week we have to write a musical, if I'm in fiction, I'll write fiction every week and submit to my mentor for feedback. And its feedback really helped my writing, because there will be a kind of word whereby it will be like, why is this word in this line? Why is this word with this line? So I get to understand that even if it is a comma or an apostrophe, it has a function in that line. So we can't just put a, because we say, okay, let it not be as if I'm not using punctuations. No, that it must be intentional with a punctuation and everything. So I got to being intentional with my words, with my punctuations.
Infrastructures have not been kept in place. Things have not really been put in place and stuff like that. So, what do you think should be done ordinarily to get to better the situation within, let's say, Ekiti? Let's start with Ekiti, and then we can also look at Lagos, because Lagos, for me, many persons think Lagos to be, this metropolitan city and all that, but there are lots of things that are not available in Lagos, like sewage system, like emergency response that ordinarily can respond in times of emergency and stuff like that. How does this tend to affect the day-to-day life activities of a people, and how do you think we can go out of that?
Okay, one thing is that these infrastructures, they are available, but they are not enough. They are not sufficient because we have. I think Nigeria's like in a classroom in my own department now. We are almost almost 300, almost 300. Yes, I can see that it is not number one. It is not convenient. The environment is not conducive for for students of over 200. It is not. It doesn't we see that we have to go to a classroom and you'll be standing. You'll be standing in the classroom where the lecture is going on, and yet you still have to pay your school fees. So now I believe that these
Wow.
infrastructures, they should be made available. They should be made sufficient because if we look at it very well, they are necessities of life. They are needs, not wants. They are needs, not
Yeah.
wants. And number one is one thing that I really hate is the road that leads to campus and to classroom being awkward. I don't know, being example now being a one lane where it has to be two lane. There's supposed to be like road for going and coming in.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when there's only
I
one road,
I get you. I get you.
what I'm saying is that there instead of two lane, there'll be one lane. And in that one lane, people will be trekking, cars will be going in and coming in. So definitely, accident is unavoidable in that kind of situation. Accident is unavoidable. So I think they should just don't try to make this all these things sufficient. They should make it yes. Because it's actually sad when a student is purchase into a is struggling to purchase it to have a degree, and at the end of the day just meet death unexpectedly untimely. So it is kind of frustrating. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that many persons die deaths that ordinarily shouldn't have been considered deaths, like the deaths are not necessary. So it's like unnecessary death.
It's unnecessary. Sincerely, it's unnecessary. In fact, I even had last year I heard about a final year student being hit by a car in OAU. A final year student in OAU. I was like from 100 level for 4 years. After 4 years, and just because she wants to submit project and everything, just because it was so that she was hit by a trailer. So we can see that it is not giving. It is not giving. But we know that okay, this environment is the school environment. There should be a rule that no truck, no trailer, no all this. They should not they should not move closer to the school environment.
That's quite unfortunate that things ordinarily still have to be done one way or the other in such tone. Your poetry often reflects deep social realities. Do you choose the themes you write about, and what inspires you the most to write about these themes?
What really inspired me was that as a child growing up, I I tend
Mm-hmm.
to see so many things that I don't really like, and it is even from childhood that I have a dear friend that died while playing on the playground, and she was the only daughter outside of her parents, and they gave birth to her at an old age, a very old age. So today they haven't given birth to any child again, and yeah, so they are childless. They are childless. So there are some experiences that kind of shaped me that made me that it's not sitting well with me. Just year of the okay now. Apart from that girl, my friend died at an early age on the playground. There's just a night. I think I was in primary three then, and in my neighborhood, we just had a serious wailing, not crying, wailing. Like there's a good crying and wailing. There's this wailing that just scattered the environment. People were watching like what happened, what happened, and we just hear that a child what's it called? Yes, it's a child. Although it is a family house, it's an extended family, and the wife and daughter is living in that house, and they heard that her husband, the father of our child, has been hit by a trailer while coming from home, and they have to bring the dead body home, and it is so I don't know. I think that was one of the experiences that even has like make me can't amen again, because I've been experiencing this from childhood. And one of the most destroying things I don't love is that seeing youths and children dying. I believe that at least someone can die at old age and everything, but you know, losing someone at a very tender age is not really sitting well with anybody at all. So that I write from my experience, because I write from what I know first before proceeding to what I don't know, my imagination or my keen observation. I write with my experience, with what I know first. There's a writer that I read an interview, and she said she writes to know more. She writes to know more. She writes to know more. But even if she's writing to know more, there's this iota of you writing for what you know, from what you know. No, the writing may now proceed to what you don't know, your imagination, or you kind of questioning some things, some philosophy, but you will still start with what you know. The word you are using in that poem, you know the definition of that word, you know the usefulness of that word, and something inspired you to use that word. So I believe that when we write from our experience, it means I'm writing from my own heart. I'm writing from my own heart. I'm pouring out my heart to writing, and it kind of make maybe the plots, the narration connecting to each other, disjointed, not disjointed, because I already experienced what I am writing from, what I am writing about rather. So I experienced what I am writing. So I think writing from experience is very important.
It's alarming that we are not even alarmed at the level of people dying, you know. I say this because also, I'm Nigerian just like you, and I also lived in the country for pretty much the first, give and take, the first 17 years of my life, right? And I have the experience of ordinarily what it really means to be Nigerian in its entirety, and the deaths you are seeing or the deaths you're experiencing are almost not strange to me. Just that the strangeness only comes from the fact that we don't even make our voices ordinarily to be heard, and we push everything to blame God or blame the devil, and we talk about the whole idea of the fact that, oh, only God knows. No, not only God knows, we ordinarily also should know. We ordinarily should know why people are dying. People are dying because, like you said, things have not been kept in place. Things have not been kept in the right places, and yeah, we need to go a very, very long way, and our politics ordinarily have to change. And if I should chip in a bit as it concerns our politics and our sense of disunity, not necessarily disunity between Sarah and Obina, or Sarah and Biringkpa, or Sarah and John. The disunity that comes from what we have been told about the complete tribe, the Yoruba tribe, the Igbo tribe, the Hausas, the Calabars, the Ibibios, the Kalabari, the Ishan man, the Ibira man, the Bagi woman. Those type of conversations and how they play in our politics and how they play in the philosophy of granting jobs and stuff like that. When you look at your life in school, when you look at the fact that you have classmates from almost all parts of the country, and you guys are almost living in peace to the best of your guys' ability, how do you think that your experience as a student and your sense of cosmopolitanism, that is your sense of coming to meet more people, how do you see this coming to help foster unity in Nigeria in the long run? And what has this unity done to us as a people?
So I see in my own school, being a student, among other tribes, culture, and everything. I see it as God. No, he not created us in different in the same ways. He said in the same way. So I think God himself is a creative creator. He was trying to like tell us that he is creative. The way he created me in his own image, yet he created another person in his own image. Still, we are in different forms, different shapes. So I think that it is a kind of telling us that there's need for unity. There's need for unity in learning, in living together. And sometimes that your help will not come from your tribe member. Your help will not come from your own family member. Your help will come from other tribes, other culture, and other people. So I think coming together of different people, it's just that it makes life interesting. It makes life interesting, and you know we was God. We align with God that yes, he's a creative creator, creating us, and he's a creative creator, creating us in different images, different forms. Yes, so we are all displaying God's creativity.
Wow, that is very powerful and very captivating because I think disunity has done more harm to us than good in the sense that our political class have come to capitalize on this sense of homophobic attitude. Sometimes almost everybody wants to be homophobic one way or the other because it comes to the point where people want to survive. So the moment you bring about the whole idea of the other tribe wanting to do you bad, people become afraid and people become scared and people just fall back to their shell. But you've said it all. We are together. We are more similar than we are different. Just like DK Chukwumerije will say, the same thing can drive us apart that bind us together, or the same thing can bind us together that drive us apart, because the wall and the breach are both in the heart. And we hope that things get better in the country. We hope that things get better in our world, in Africa, and the likes of that. But if I should ask a question as it concerns the involvement of literature in your school, how does your personal identity, whether cultural, national, or gendered, shape the poetry you create? Do you see the interplay between this personal identity from cultural perspective to your gender and to the culture you find yourself shaping your work, or it's something born out of an external factor devoid of your own personal identity?
It's born. My writings are born from my own internal factors in the sense that my experience shapes me, my environment, where I'm coming from. And let me take one of my poems as an example. That's the tales of my origin. I was given birth in Kaduna,
Yeah.
and as a child, I know that I don't belong in this place. I know I'm a stranger in Kaduna State because I know I'm not an Hausa. I'm not I'm not I'm not an indigenous of Kaduna State. So there's this sense of identity that I don't belong here, and that sense of identity it makes me curious to ask my parents that okay, where am I from? And they tell me I told me then that I'm from Osun State, and we are Yoruba from the Oduduwa descendant. So I have this belief that I'm not here. So in my poem now, I was being told about the stories of Oduduwa, Ile-Ife, Ogumosho, and everything. So I do believe that I belong here, and I know I want to write about this place. And example now in that's my poem, The State of Origin. I was talking about how depth is the memory of the child. All the stories they were being told, they told me then. I of course I couldn't comprehend them, but I know that I know some things I could remember, and I did mention them in the poems. I did mention them in the poems, and I said it that when I was in what's it called in Ocean State, the what's it called the train. When I saw the train, it kind of arose, what's it called, like awakening my memories. Yeah, it's kind of awakening my memories. So I would love to read the first line of the poem. It says, in Ocean, on a moving bike, the images of abandoned trains, like the way you rose a drunkard, woke the slumberous tales of my origin. In the wakefulness of memories, the beginning passes through my mother's mouth. So the beginning of the tales and everything, I say that it passes through my mother's mouth, because my mother's mouth is the mouth telling me my tales of my origin, history of where we are from and everything. So I think our background, our experience, our identity really shapes and reflects in our writing.
In a country facing political and economic instability, do you see poetry as a form of resistance, healing, or both, or none of the two?
I think this the two, a form of resistance in the sense that I think Nigerian poets are trying in the sense that they write after all these terrible experiences, right after all these terrible experiences. And let me begin with the spoken word about after the NSAS. And there's this girl, this lady from Osuka, yes, from Osuka. She's called Ijeoma Uzomba. So she did a spoken word about the NSAS and NSAS protest. And she said flashback to the 20s, to the 20 time, flashback to 2020. So I think then it was October 21st. Okay, no, right, rather, the remembrance of NSAS days. I think she was kind of resisting that. Okay, this ought not to be. And yeah, of course, there are other poets who write outside the experiences just to tell us that we are not this all this experience are not sitting well with us. Then about the healing of the thing, I've get to know some people who are not even studying literature and English, that they are writers, and they first started writing just to heal from certain emotions, certain experiences, just to like find solace in writing. Because on its own, life is everyone is busy, and when you're passing through some things, sometimes you don't even have someone to talk to. And even if you have someone to talk to, it takes a kind of understanding for that person to like see to what you are passing through, what's it called, understand you at that moment. So some people write just to find healing in writing. Some people write to express their emotions, to pour out their emotion. Example now, there's a poem in my book, titled Morai. I had a terrible experience, and although I speak out to people about the experience and everything, yet I couldn't find this healing, because I feel the experience is still biting me, still itching me. And even the first draft of the poem was written the first version of the poem was written inside the church. And yes, I couldn't, yet the poem couldn't capture that experience on its own. The thing is still biting. It's as if you are carrying this burden in your heart or in your head. It's still heavy within me. So until day, I still have to sit down and calm down and still have to pour out my emotions. And I'm very grateful that yeah, I'm healed from that experience. And if I'll be that later, it is kind of the experience I would love to share my writing journey, because yes, it is. Yeah, it is also one of the things that keeps me like motivated. Yeah, it keeps me motivated. So if I'll be sharing that experience now, which is I'll of course I'll be referencing, like I'll make a reference to the poem, to that particular poem. But of course I'm being healed from the poem. I've been healed from the experience. I wrote a poem with it, and of course I've moved on with life. So I think at times poetry plays a kind of a role in being healed from certain experiences and all that, and some terrible, some heal from sickness, everything. Yeah, we have people who even write poems from their death, from death. And there's this similarity between poetry and song. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I said there's this similarity between poetry and song. And there's this really this or in this understanding African poetry in my course, they had about these Negroes in the American, then about slavery, colonization, and everything. And they sing this Negro spiritual song, Negro spiritual song. And you can see,
Kumbaya, my lord, kumbaya.
yes, all those things.
Kumbaya, my lord, kumbaya. Kumbaya, my lord, kumbaya. Kumbaya. Kumbaya, come by, Lord. Stuff like that.
So you can see that it is
I
this
gotta lay down.
don't start singing. So you can see that it is through poetry and through song that people were able to express their emotions. And there's this some of these hymns, these songs that when you sing it, you have this deep this deep connection, this deep understanding that these words are not just words, they carry weight, they are heavyweights. And we know we have example in Nigeria, we have Fela, Anikulapo, and we have Bob Marley. Because in this course, African poetry, we discuss on what's it called, songs as poetry. Songs are poetry, and they share the similarity about like in form of themes, structure, repetition, figures of speech, and everything. So there's this similarity. So what I'm saying is that example now, there's this song by Bob Marley. I don't know the song.
Emancipate yourself from
From
mental slavery. None but
slavery.
ourselves can free our mind.
Now we can see that it's also like similar to poetry. We have to like pen down our emotions, pen down our experience, and to heal from those experiences. So now you can see that what's it called? But Marley was not singing this song from a happy heart. We can see that it is not there was slavery in the I think early 90s and everything. So he was using poetry as a form of a resistance, and songs that poetry. Let's consider in that context, you can see that songs as a poetry. You can see songs as poetry. So it's a kind of resistance to slavery, colonization, and segregation.
Can you walk us through your creative process? Like, let's say, do you write with a specific audience in mind? Do you write purely from personal expressions? Or are you still yet to discover this? And if so, if someone is listening to you now, Sarah, and you're talking to the person and you're telling the person ordinarily about yourself, what should this person be looking out for as it concerns Sarah, the writer, Sarah, the poet? Who are we looking out for? What are you bringing to the table in terms of literature? Is it something new? Is it something novel? Is it something personal to you? We are still yet to get, or we're already getting at least something from the iceberg.
Okay. Yeah, the thing is, we all don't know what the future entails, but what we do is keep dreaming, and we keep working towards our goals, and following our passion. So I just believe that I am not yet who I am, and on daily basis I am becoming, and in the process of becoming, I will continue to write, and yes, and people will keep seeing my work. I pray for inspiration from you and for good health. Yeah.
Wow, wow, that is down there powerful. Are you optimistic about progress in Nigeria? Do you see Nigeria making progress anytime soon? And if we are to make progress, what are writers supposed to be doing, and what are we as citizens supposed to be doing to see that one day we ordinarily come to have that peace we ordinarily so desire?
Until like the peace, I think peace actually starts with oneself, and I think that's when one truly finds fulfillment in one's purpose. I think when everyone is finding fulfillment in each other, each of their purposes, there will not be any kind of being frustrated, there'll not be disunity. I think there'll not be disunity because you are working towards your goals, you are fulfilling your purpose, and I think you should be happy with that. You should be happy with that. And I'm working towards I think I should have this peace myself. But if I'm not working towards my own goals and everything, I have the sense that I should be working towards my purpose, and I'm not doing that. I kind of get frustrated myself, and I can even extend that frustration to other people or people beside me. Yeah, so I just think we should just work towards our calling, our purpose, and everything. Whatever you are doing, you should just do it well.
So, Sarah, we've been having conversations in and about Nigeria. We've been talking about a whole lot of stuff. You've talked about student life. You've talked about the potentiality that ordinarily can be actualized if students are given the right platform and the right opportunity to carry on with their job and do carry on with their studies and come to have the right places to ordinarily come to do things the way they ordinarily are supposed to do them. We've also been talking about writing, literature, and a whole lot of other things. We've talked about the possibility and the potentiality of poets in the society. We've talked about the Sprinng Writing Fellowship. the one you participated in last year, and the potentiality that can be gotten from, communities of writing and conversations in and about that. We are hoping to see more come out from your work, apart from the current collection we've seen from different places and in and about that. Is there something you are working on currently? Are we expecting something from you in the near future, in the distant future?
Yeah, so I'm planning. I'm writing currently. I'm writing, and yeah, I hope to be it's a collection soon.
Okay. That is beautiful down there. I've been talking to Sarah Adeyemo. She's from Osun State, a Nigerian poet and a writer, the author of The Shape of Silence, a book recently published, a collection of poems that talks about a whole lot of things that ordinarily can be mirrored in our own personal lives and in the realities that we get to see in a place like Nigeria. I've been your host, Biringkpa, been Emeka, the host of the podcast Boring Conversation. After a tedious recording process due to network fluctuations here and there, we can comfortably say that we are blessed to have Sarah get to talk to us about her experience, about her artistic journey so far, and we hope that where this has come from, more come out from there in the long run, and we all come to benefit from the well and the benevolence that is your writing process and your own life. And we pray that Nigeria succeed. We pray that Africa succeed. We pray that the world comes to experience the peace it so much needs, as opposed to the current situation of things, so that students don't just die the way they die and just go that way. And we hope to keep in touch and have this conversation. Let's see how this pull out, and we hope we we come to represent our own culture, and we come to represent our own climate and our own situation in our own ways. Sarah, do you have anything to say to us before we call it a day?
Yeah, I also appreciate your effort and your precious time for this about having this conversation. It's such an honor and that I will never take for granted. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for everything. And most importantly, thank you so much for believing in me, because it's because you believe in me that you invited me to be a guest. So thank you so much for believing in my works. Thanks so much for believing in me. Thank you so much. I'm grateful.
Yeah, I believe in a whole lot of persons. I believe people have potentiality, and I see us growing. I see us growing now into the future. And thank you for coming on the podcast. If you come to watch up onto this place, please do like, share, comment. Below will be the links to all of Sarah's social media handle. You can reach out to her. You can click on the links, and then a link also to the book will be pinned to the description of this particular video. So do go get the book, check it out, read, make reviews, and then reach out to her and tell her the things you ordinarily want her to do and the things you expect her to do better. With that, we say we're coming to the end of this particular session. This is Boring Conversations, a podcast that dares to talk about things beyond the ordinary, dares to talk about things that are indeed not boring. See you next time.